Well, I'm Dan Demmerly. We're here on October 20th, 2017, actually standing by the new building that we're putting up today. My home and shop was burned in the Caribou fire, which took place, came through here on September 2nd. It started in August, culminated in the loss of our property and actually many other properties on the West Kootenai here. And so we're in the process of trying to rebuild. The fire traveled over 8 miles in the course of 24 hours and consumed our home and shop, which was the first one to get burned, and then kept its way down the Kootenai and finally went up to Canada.
The fire was getting closer, but it was still a long ways up in the mountains. And we really had no idea that it would ever make it down this far. But the day that it came, we were on a trip. We had left on vacation the day before, and there was no pre-evacuation then. So we decided to go on our vacation, and we left our oldest son behind, and he was actually the one who was able to get out our horses. And he tried to get out the dogs, but unfortunately they wouldn't cooperate, and he had to flee before the flames came, and the 2 dogs didn't make it. There was no way to defend the house. The fire just came super fast, and it was just get out of the way. So my son grabbed a few special things. Unfortunately, he lost the photo albums before 2004 and things like that that were really special to us. But the worst loss was that we lost the dogs. But yet we're still praising God that everybody was safe and nobody died in the fire.
When we came up to see the house, you can never prepare yourself for what that looks like, because people had described it. We even saw a little bit of video of it, but to actually have this picture in your mind of what the home looked like, what your shop looked like, the way everything was laid out, your landscaping, your garden and everything, and to see it charred black was a really grim reminder of you can't hold on to things in this life. I think we all see that and have said that in our lives, but when you're facing it and everything that, except for what we took on our camping trip, was pretty much gone, we discovered that there's something more important, which is community and pulling together as people, and that's really taken place. As you can see behind us here today, there's a number of people that have donated their time to help us, and the fire was so hot that as we started to clean up, we had basically metal and block. That was it. All the wood, everything was completely gone. And so as our friends here helped us clean up, we just loaded on trailers, took it down to the Kootenai to a central spot, and then people started to plan, how are we going to rebuild?
You see it happen to other people, but you don't ever think it's actually going to happen to yourself. And it's really something when you come up and it's just piles of metal, everything that you've worked on for years and stuff. So it was quite the deal. We've been really blessed with people coming up to help. Tons of people coming to work and bringing food and clothes and just pretty much everything we've needed. You know, when the fire came, pretty much wiped out pretty much everything we had. So, and our neighbors around us. So it's been really amazing how people all over the country actually have been just helping and bringing stuff. There's guys working here from Michigan and down by Plains, and we've had guys from Ohio and pretty much all over the place.
The Amish ladies have been cooking meals, and it's just been an amazing effort that everybody has been so willing to help, and we will be forever thankful for it.
Hi, my name is Ben Troyer, and I'm up here at the Demmerly place helping out. They got burned out in the Caribou fire, but we're putting up a brand new home for them. And we have lots of friends and people here helping from all over the place, just because we love them and we care about them, and they've lost everything. And we use that method of allowing the love of Jesus to flow through us to those in need around us.
Hi, yeah, we're up here in the West Kootenai after this fire ravaged this place this summer, and you know, you can hear the sound of hammers and people working. This is like the Amish culture, and especially when there's a disaster like this, people just leave their stuff and get together and work. We moved to Libya 25 years ago. We're back up here today, right along this trail here where I used to ride my horses up to the mountains. Yeah, living on the West Kootenai here, you know, amongst the Amish community. You know, it's really a blessing. It's nice to expect, you know, if a disaster comes around, that you can kind of expect that you're going to get help from outside coming in, you know, helping. And just, you know, unfortunately, in a bigger part of the world, you just don't find that anymore. So it just helps a lot, and it's really a blessing. So.
My name is Mervyn Otto, and I'm from Plains, Montana. We knew of the many homes that got burned up here at the Kootenai, so we decided to come up and donate our time to help build back these houses, and they lost everything. So this is only a small thing we can do, is to donate our time. It's the love of Christ in us that we have, the love for fellow man, to help one another out in time of need. And we don't necessarily sit around and wait on government help. We rely on our own resources, and that's who we are. That's what we do.
Hi, I'm Marty Weaver. I'm from Trout Creek, Montana. Me and my co-pastor Wendell Beach and his two boys and my son came up here to Rexford today to help rebuild a structure that was lost in the fire for Dan Demmerly. I can't imagine how it would be to leave your home and come back and see a pile of ashes. And I know these brethren here would be there for us. We want to be there for them, and we all help each other the best we can. I grew up as an old order Amish boy. When there was a need like this, my dad always had us boys go to frolics, and it kind of stuck with me over the years. And that's one thing I noticed when we left the Amish culture, that there wasn't near as many frolics. The Amish are great for helping each other, barn raisings and doing things like this. In our culture in America here, it seems everybody is so independent, and I know of people moving into the area, the community, they have no family, they have no relatives, they know hardly anybody, and they have to face life by themselves, the way it seems. And it's just a blessing from the Lord to have family, brothers and sisters in the faith. We can all band together and work together.
Interesting story. I had someone call me who was a reporter, and they had worked with National Geographic, and they were doing this story about wildfires. This was about a week after the fires had taken place, a little over that, and she said, we would like to come up, we'd like to photograph the devastation, do some filming, interview some people, and then talk about what your plans are to rebuild. Well, at that point, we had already cleaned everything up, and I told her that. She was amazed. She said, I can tell you from my experience and having done this for a long time that this does not happen anymore. And I said, well, it does here. And one other thing, you know, there's been a lot of devastation in this country, right, with this year, with the hurricanes in Florida, Texas, now the tremendous wildfires in California. I was talking to a man down in Florida, and he had mentioned to me that they had lost so much in the flooding from the hurricanes, and I told him I was from Montana, we lost our home, and he said, well, how's it going? And I explained to him the whole community thing. He says, you know what? He said, it's the same thing that we've experienced down here is what you're experiencing up there, which is people coming together, binding together, neighbors I didn't know I had to help us through. And he made this statement. He says, you know, Washington has a hard time figuring this out, but he says it seems in America, where the heart of the people are, he says, we still understand that we need to work together.
Growing up, it was never a thought, it never crossed our mind that we would take money from the government for our losses or for our things that we needed. When somebody had a loss, people came in and helped. When their barn burned down, people came in, the whole communities and from far and wide, and helped rebuild them. That was just expected of them.
Being part of the Amish community up here, soon after it took place, plans started to happen as to how we were going to deal with the aftermath, the leftovers of this fire. Junior and his boys came up and took their excavators, leveled everything off, and they said, you know, we're gonna help you rebuild, and they were serious about it. So we've been able to reach out to some, but not nearly as much as they've reached out to us. And no one asked what your political stance was or what your religion was, or you know, where you went to church. It was, what can we do to help? And that's been the case not only locally here on the Kootenai, but throughout the area of Eureka and this part of Montana. We've had many people reach out to us. At the forefront of our country, we were not dependent upon the government. But what's taken place, of course, is the government's tried to help so much in so many ways that people have become dependent upon it, and then when something happens where you have to be independent again, it's difficult. And so what I've learned through this is the background that we are involved in, and the background that's here from the Anabaptist background or the Amish background. It was still, you take care of each other. And you know what? It functions extremely well. Do people have to sacrifice? Do they have to financially give? Absolutely. Do they have to give their time? Absolutely. But they do it willingly and without any kind of indication that it's a bother to them. And if we could grab a hold of that as a country, the government could go back to doing what it was set up to do, which is simply to govern, but not to be the one that bails everybody out when things go wrong. We haven't had any government involvement that I know of, other than like the Red Cross was here, but they're not directly government involved. But even that, in and of itself, was run by the local people. So what I'm finding is we are functioning perfectly well within our community without a lot of government intervention at this point. The only intervention I know of is one of our senators sent a representative to a meeting that I was at the first night, and they just extended their condolences to us, and which was nice. But as far as we were concerned, that less involvement was better for us because we were free to do what we needed to do to build this community up again. So from that standpoint, I feel like there's a lot to be learned by what's taken place here, not on just a small scale like this, but on really a global scale, to be honest. And I think if people understood that this kind of life can work, and nobody here has made it about themselves, they've made it about everybody else. And when you make it about everybody else, things get done. And so that's, I think, an example of it, what we've experienced here.